This is a dive coaster, and the tallest one of these in the world stands at a staggering 245 feet. For some of y'all, that seems big already, but in 2026, a new dive coaster is getting built, and it's over 50 feet taller than this. That's right, opening next year, the world's first 300-foot dive coaster will make its debut here at Six Flags over Texas, and we need to talk about it. Before we get started though, if you're new here and love theme parks like me, help us out by hitting that subscribe button. And if you want to stay up to date to all Texas theme park news, or theme park news in general, tap notification bells to know when new videos come out of my channel. With all that said, let's get started. For Six Flags over Texas in Arlington, Texas, no matter how you feel about dives, this is such a win. When I say it's been years since our first major full circuit coaster, I mean it. Looking at the stats alone, our last full circuit coaster that was ground up and completely new came with Titan in 2001. I mean, are we really counting Joker or New Texas Giant, no matter how good that coaster is? I don't think so. Now first, to all those who may not be caught up with the news or are still confused on how this was confirmed, let me give you some context. 5 days ago, I was getting sent links to an FAA website in Arlington, also known as the Federal Aviation Administration. You know, the guys that run airports, especially our very own DFW airport just 10 minutes north of over Texas. Now, if Six Flags plans to make a huge coaster, they obviously can't just make it without telling anyone. And to do this, it's a full-on process, which also includes construction permits, as the county needs to allow a big project, especially one that may interfere with air traffic patterns. Long story short, they submitted plans and one case was named 2025 ASW 829OE, which is classified as an amusement park structure, and it's also named Project Ruby. By the way, you can look up this information by yourself, as this is public information. But anyways, this seemed typical, as we already knew the park was going to get a new coaster, and it makes sense for permits to go online. But the part no one expected, except me, was that the height for this project was listed as 309 feet, a record-breaking height for this coaster. But JB, for all you know, this could be a massive churro stand. How can you be so sure it's a roller coaster? The coordinates. The coordinates listed on the file, if you look it up into Apple Maps or whatever you use, shows up right where La Vibra used to be, the exact spot we already know the new dive coaster is going. So, putting all the pieces together, we have a construction project named Project Ruby, standing at 309 feet, confirmed to be in La Vibra's spot, and Six Flags did say it was going to be a record-breaking dive. This means... Now for the people watching this video unaware of this advanced doozy lingo, Giga basically means a coaster standing over 300 feet tall. And the reason this may seem like a big deal to the coaster community is because of how rare they are. I mean, we only have 7 confirmed Gigas in the entirety of the globe, with just 4 in America alone. And suddenly this random Six Flags park is getting one? Unreal. Now first things first, because I have to say it, I knew it. As shocking as an addition this is, and people online will probably say, why over Texas, and what's so special about this park? I've been telling y'all since 2022 that this was possible. For some reason, Six Flags has really neglected this park for years, despite the massive potential it had, and we've had it since the start. I mean, we're the original Six Flags park that invented the name. We are also responsible for numerous world's first attractions. For example, the world's first log flume, or the world's first tubular steel coaster. It started here. And lastly, the most important part, we have plenty of space to grow with no height restrictions, and with the population in DFW growing, it makes sense for a big project to happen like this. Yet no one believed it, and it's fair because it was super far-fetched for over Texas to get a Giga, especially with old Six Flags. But now with this merger, it's finally happening. The thing is, what does this actually mean? Well, let me put things into reality. Titan, our current tallest coaster in Texas, stands around 250 feet, and this dive will stand over 50 feet higher than that. To add to that scale, the oil derrick, a pretty tall icon of over Texas that you can see miles away even before you get close to the park, is still slightly shorter than this dive. Meaning, this ride is so tall that you will see it once it's complete, and unlike a normal Giga, this ride will hold you face down at this staggering height. Next, this coaster will also be a world's first, as dive coasters have never reached this height before. Yukon Striker in Canada's Wonderland, also a dive coaster, stands at 245 feet, and just to remind you, Project Ruby will stand at 309. Also, once this ride opens, it'll officially crack into the top 10 tallest roller coasters in the world. Plus, with a drop on a roller coaster this large, you can only imagine how massive those inversions might be. After all, this is the first Giga that has the capability to go upside down. And with the tallest inversion standing at 197 feet, this coaster may get the title of having the tallest dive loop ever created. But it's only a theory for now, time will tell. Now, despite how insane these stats are, I've already seen some hate online for this coaster, mainly due to it being a dive. I've actually made a video on this topic, but in the coaster community, for some reason dive coasters get a bad rap. Personally, I have no problem with them, as suspense is such an underrated part of a coaster, and dive coasters take full advantage of this. But to some, it's considered a one-trick pony. The idea of the coaster only being its drop and most dives having an underwhelming continuation doesn't help. But to all those skeptics, hear me out. Number 1, you've never experienced a dive like this before. If the worst part about a dive is the drop not being special or repetitive, this coaster solves that issue. A drop at 300 feet? Yeah, that's insane. Can you imagine climbing up that long lift hill, seeing everything below you get super small, as you suddenly turn around waiting for that drop, and when you reach the end, you're held face down 300 feet in the air. There's no going back, and you're gonna have to plunge it at a potentially steep angle. There is no experience that'll replicate that so far, and for some of y'all, it might be so scary you won't even do it. This drop will be insane. Now obviously, this leads to the complaint that the drop will be good, but that's about it. Here's the thing, dives are evolving. No matter what your opinion on B&M is, Six Flags may be listening to the criticism as our newest dive, Wrath of Versace, changes the dive formula up a little bit, and I have a feeling that this dive will do the same. They will not spend this much money on a basic ride. They could, but I have a feeling they won't, because reason number 3, there's so much potential to make this ride work. It's clear Six Flags is leaving no expense to give over Texas this insane ride, and I think people are just still used to old Six Flags. This isn't the same brand anymore. As much as some may hate Zimmerman, just let him cook. It may just be the end of cheap records, and I'm thinking that for Six Flags to make this dive a Giga, the rest of the layout can and will be impressive. Think about it. As much as people hate the mid-course brake run on these dives, what if this dive has one but in a twist thanks to its height? Will stand at 150 feet similar to any typical dive. Basically a way to kind of make fun of other dives and really show off this ride's height. They need to get creative, and I bet they probably will. Anyways, despite the height of this ride being revealed, there's really not much more information. But it's not a breakdown video without some predictions, and I have a few. Taking a look at the permits once more, there's more revealed than one could assume. The biggest thing that sticks out to me is the project name being titled Project Ruby. I think, along with its height and potential stats, this permit may give us an idea for its new theme. I definitely went full detective for this one, but I did find it really weird that the name Project Ruby was Ruby spelled with an I, not a Y. Apparently, when looking it up, its only significance was being the Spanish spelling of our English word Ruby, but regardless, it got me thinking. Sure, it makes sense. It will be in the Spain area, so thankfully not a DC theme, but why Ruby? The most safe bet is that this coaster will have a ruby color, and I could totally see it. Ruby is considered a gemstone, and to parallel that, the new dive will be the new gem of DFW and over Texas. The coaster everyone will soon know, just like how Theory 325, for example, is the gem of Carowinds. On a deeper level though, I found 2 other reasons for its weird name. Ruby can also be seen as a treasure, and maybe to pay homage to the treasure hunting history in Spain, this coaster will have a theme revolving around that. After all, Spain in the past represented royalty. In a typical Six Flags fashion, they'll consider this coaster the King of the West. Some names that I came up with that potentially revolve around this theme include Crestfall, Imperium, Crownfall, or El Dorado's Descent. While there are some pretty good theories on names, the other idea I found is the deepest of all these theories, but I do have to mention it because it kinda makes sense. The word Ruby may just be part of a bigger word, which I found to be known as Rubicon. A Rubicon is a river in ancient Rome that was considered a mark of no return. This also invented the phrase crossing the Rubicon, which you guessed it, means making an irreversible decision. Kinda sounds like riding a dive, right? But it doesn't stop there. It's also known for royalty or power like the gemstone itself. And once again, this fits in the Spain area. Lastly, the word Rubicon symbolizes and embodies conquering limits, which in the case of this coaster, it does that, as we've never seen a 300-foot dive before, and it's the highest ride in the entirety of Texas. End result, along with the other names I predict, my favorite prediction is this one, that the ride's name becomes Rubicon. It's simple, very catchy, and blends in well for a roller coaster name. It's original for Six Flags over Texas, but doesn't make the name too extensive like Wrath of Versace at Great America. Now, as for the ride's layout, it's not confirmed just yet, but I do have a feeling we'll see it very soon. Fun fact, those FAA permits isn't just one file, it's numerous containing multiple height checks around the area, and each height check has specific coordinates that are there, which means if someone takes the time to manually plot each little dot and then connect the dots, we may have the confirmed layout for this GIGA Dive. In fact, someone already has, with this Reddit user in the roller coaster Reddit page, apparently confirming the first parts of the layout. While it may just be the first drop, at least it confirms it will face the park, and it's honestly such a big deal. If you remember when I talked about this prediction a while ago, I said, a dive coaster's main feature is the first drop, so you have to have a great view, which means do not give us a parking lot coaster, so it'll be a great view and the first thing you see when walking into the park. A huge win. Well, that's pretty much all the information we know so far. I'd say it's the perfect amount to be really hyped for this new ride, as we still have a lot to uncover and see as things ramp up consistently. The final notable thing we need to look at in this permit is that it actually reveals the construction dates. According to the work schedule on the file, it says work will begin March 1st of this year and finish March 30 of 2026. Some speculate this confirms the grand opening of the new coaster, but I kinda disagree. I don't expect the coaster to open as soon as it's done being built. It still needs extra theming, tests, and etc. This puts the ride in more of an April 2026 opening, and it makes more sense like that. As for this year, March 1st is literally just a few weeks away, and this means we may potentially see some new footers, or maybe if we're lucky, some pieces of track already start to happen. So of course, when March comes around, I will be covering that. But also, with construction starting so soon, I'm very optimistic this won't be an Aquaman situation, and maybe for once, Six Flags will not delay any new coasters. Also, I wonder if the announcement will come sooner than we thought, mainly because if we see supports and tracks show up, will the coaster be built before the announcement, or will it be vice versa? Typically, Six Flags announces a new ride before construction starts, not after. But then again, Cedar Fair is collabing with Six Flags, so anything could happen. Anyways, if you want to be the first to know anything over Texas related, especially when it comes to this coaster, this will be the channel for you. Plus, hit that notification bell to not miss any new updates. Regardless, I'm super excited that my home park's finally getting some care from Six Flags and getting this major new coaster. But I'd also love to hear your thoughts, so comment down below. Anyways, thank you for watching, and this is JB Thrills signing out.